All right, so another week, and we're back at it on Monday, June 8th. We'll acknowledge all the different arts that influence us, like usual: Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Indonesian, French, and Dog Brothers, Japanese. And, since I'm here, we did this last week. Um, the um, it I've seen this different ways. A lot of systems will set up here, or they'll just be relaxed, hands at their side. This right foot comes up and is sort of, we're in a cat stance here. I always put my left palm on the side of my right fist, because by the time I push this out, my left hand is over my knuckles. And then my hands roll back as I step back. So, Lapching, Jinbei, Ginlai, and we're here. That's, I got some of that going last week as we were looking at some of the salutations, and that full 1, 2, 3, 4 is what we're abbreviating, when we come into this. Okay, so I just think that's good. Sometimes we looked at we were doing it with double stick, which is the way you would do it at the Inosanto Academy for Filipino martial arts. Thai, I mean, this is pretty much what it is. Sometimes there's some vocalization here. Indonesian, we went over that full salutation. French and Dog Brothers, they'll say salute in Box Francais Savat. And no joke, you'll very often in a Dog Brothers class, you'll say woof woof, because we maintain a sense of humor. It's very important since we're learning, dangerous, deadly things, Ivan. And then Japanese, we're doing pretty much the full salutation. There might be sometimes, arigato gozaimasu, you might have a little bit of vocalization. Shoot wrestling does that just from a kneeling position, but it's good. That way we're kind of building our foundation. So today, I'd like to spend a little bit more time with the form, and I'd actually like to I'm going to jump several levels, and I'll talk about curricular progression, at least the way that Sifu Fong approaches it. But I thought I have something else that I think is going to be kind of fun for today that, we can take a look at. So feet start together, hands relaxed at your side, hands rise up. They come in, we're not touching our ribs, very important, bending at the knees, opening our toes, and then, or opening our feet, and then we're in our posture. Left hand on top, right hand in front, we bring it back, we're still not touching our ribs. Left hand knuckles start towards the ground until we execute. Tan Sao, Hun Sao, Sao Kun, same thing. It preps downward, and then we go through. As that comes in, the left Tan Sao comes out. We have one definitive Hun Sao here, and this Wu Sao starts to come in, it drops into Fuk Sao. And then this comes back out. I'll usually count the Fuk Saos, Pak, Jikjern, Tan Sao, and that hand is done, right? This right hand's gonna come out, and 1, repeat the sequence. 2, 3. If our mind lapses and we do a 4th one, not the end of the world. Pak Sao, Jikjern, and so on. Okay, session 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, left hand on top, 5, 6, right hand on top, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Session 3, left hand, 1, 2, 3. Repeat that. Pak, come back. Okay, second set, high, low, high. It goes Hun Sao into a low Wanjern back to where it started. 1, 2, 3, 4, into 5, back up 6. Bong, Tan, Wanjern. Bong, Tan, Wanjern. Palm down, wipe it, switch, switch, hold the line with your right hand. 1, 2, 3. This is my left hand. Tan, Hun, Sao, Kun. I turn slightly to my left, my right foot meets, and I finish. Okay. And lots of experience here, so you know I'm more probably for the benefit of maybe anybody who's watching. Depending on who you talk to, Bruce Lee did Selim Tao. It's one way to anglicize and pronounce it. The first form, what we just did, at least one time per day until the day that he died, depending on who you talk. I believe I've heard that from Guru Dan. Some of the things over the years all mix up, but we hear that a lot. You know, as we are a few years away from 50 years, we're only a couple years removed here from it being 50 years since Bruce Lee has passed away. I mean, we're looking at a little bit of like a mythological almost kind of quality to some of the stories about him. But one of the things that we hear very often is, even though he wrote what he wrote and he, you know, sort of promoted philosophically what he did in terms of liberation for martial artists, we hear that a lot, that he would often do the form, that form that we just did, at least one day a week. All right. And even if it's not true, it's still sort of a good illustration of the idea. What is that first form really giving us? Well, it's giving us structure, because there's no, once we get into our footwork, there's no footwork. It's all about structure, developing structure, right? Because Chum Kyu is the second empty-handed form, is all about mobility and, you know, mobility systems as far as footwork and moving around. A little imagination. This first form is all about developing structure. And so we have no footwork to speak of because we have so many things that we want to focus our attention on. Okay, so one more time, and then we'll kind of get into a little bit of a bonus. Well, I'm going to review this one. What the heck? Let's a little less vocalization. So our opening. Session 1, acknowledging that I'm going way faster. And I tend to do this form a little bit, all sessions, a little bit slower than, like once we get into session 2 and 3, a lot of people will speed through it. I tend to do it a little bit slower. Okay. Because I'm really focused on the building aspect, right? Building, structure, and our foundational tools. Sifu is very, Fong is very, you know, he's a realistic guy, and he will acknowledge sometimes years becoming decades of practicing this. Sometimes we might start to get a little bored, etc. And that's understandable, but we want to keep focused on what we're really doing. Otherwise, we're just kind of going through the motions, quite literally. Like if I'm just, okay, I'm a Wing Chun practitioner, I got to do it again. So if I don't do it, I'm dishonoring my Sifu or the lineage or Itmon or, that's a really, maybe, I was going to say negative, but probably a better word is counterproductive standpoint, right? I can see you taking that on like a bad day, maybe if you're a boxer and you're going to take that attitude with your road work, that like if you're a boxer who 99 days out of 100 you love jogging, but every 100th day, if you're just like, it's just something I gotta do. Like I can see that attitude about that. But Seal Tao, we always want to be really clear on what we're accomplishing. And globally, overall on a macro level structure, right? And that's what this whole, like as we've looked, as we've been in our drills section, right? Our drills, not the trapping, but the drills section. I've said this many times, we're refining our understanding of center line beyond what's typical. All right. And again, if you have prior training with body rotation and a lead and head movement, this, can be very frustrating. But just like with the forms training, if we're putting in the time, we want to be really clear on what we're getting out of it. So my example, again, road work is one thing. I mean, you're a football player, you're lifting weights even on a day when you don't want to. I mean, there's only so many ways to trick yourself into the right mindset. And I'm not saying those things aren't important, road work for a boxer or lifting heavy weights for a football player, but our mindset with our forms training has to be a little bit different. Like we have to find a way, if not to psych ourselves up, if not to manipulate ourselves into enjoyment, at least to be really clear on what we're doing. Like for example, real quickly, I would many years, I lived in a townhouse that had a garage out back that was separate from the town. So you go out the backyard of the townhouse, walk through. I had a fairly large backyard. It looked like a single family in a condo backyard. It's pretty nice. And then you go out back, you go out the gate, and the garage was only connected to one other garage, and it was overlooking a hill. So it's very picturesque, very pretty. Sort of like doing outdoor training indoors. So you could go from the garage, walk over to the hill, and it's a very nice place to train. So the end of longer martial arts / like road work / circuit training type workouts, I always did my forms from Wing Chun. Or some days I do my jurus from Silat. And why would I do that? Because those were my reward. I did all the hard, like really sweat, inducing stuff. And my reward is I got to chill out and do the form and slow everything down. So really important. If you're ever having a day where it's like, well, I pledged to my instructor that I do this at least once a day, so today I'm just let me blow through it. Nothing is probably going to get you in a state where you're like, oh, the joy. but at least kind of get your mind right about what you're accomplishing, right? And so in totality, structure and further refinement of dominating center line and understanding center line domination without rotation, all the things that we've been cultivating by going through the curriculum, okay? Session 1, again, channeling your internal energy. So the visualization, as it was taught to me, I have a bit of energy right around the area of my navel. That bit of energy is what pulls my hand in and pushes my hand out. And that's what I want to focus, even to the point that I'm imagining like a ribbon, straight line, a ribbon of energy coming out of my navel, guiding that. Okay, now, and I've been very, hopefully I've explained this in a way that works for everybody. Like, do you need to believe that that energy is actually what's moving your hand? No, you don't need to. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, make you believe in chi or ki or whatever. That's the visualization. Just do the visualization is the visualization. So since you're going to do it, you're going to learn the form, invest the time that it's that ribbon of energy. And what is that going to give me over the years and over the decades? Further center line refinement. Not only can I visualize it, I can kind of feel it, that line, because of all those reps over all those years, stretching into all those decades, etc. Okay, and you hear this a lot for Wing Chun, and I mean I think it applies to a lot of different martial arts, but it's a good analogy for Wing Chun, right? The fundamentals, the basics of Wing Chun, very simple, just like poker, the game of poker. I can teach anybody the rules to poker in a few minutes. Is it something that, well, in a few minutes, you know, I think I know everything there is to know after a 90-minute session. Absolutely not, right? Lifetime practice, lifetime refinement, but in a way that's positive, not holding you back, not like, you know, well, it's going to take you a lifetime. No. Let's approach it the other direction. It's something that you'll be able to keep working with and working on for the whole of your life, and just keep raising your level as long as your practice is consistent. That's the way that I like to think about it, okay? So session 1, which, you know, by the time you've gone Pak Sao, Jik Chun, Ton Sao Kun, and so on, Pak, Jik Chun, Ton, Sao Kun on both sides, that's the ending of session 1, right? Session, very sort of the way a lot of Wing Chun instructors like to anglicize it. They say session as a synonym for section, right? I've heard that from multiple, they'll do the same thing with the dummy, right? Session 1A, and Sifu, by the way, numbers his a little bit differently. And, you know, we might actually talk about that a little bit as well, because this is the first time in a really long time I don't have access to a Wing Chun dummy. The one that I had for over a decade, I gave to one of my students when I moved out to New York City, and I haven't gotten another one since I've been here. My former academy space was just a little small for one, so we can take a look at that, okay? But Sifu Fong numbers his dummy sessions a little bit differently, whereas most instructors do, there's 10 sessions. Sifu Fong has combined a few of them, and some of them there's an A and a B, where traditionally you're doing one side and the other, and then for some of the others he's added another where you do the other side. It's very interesting. So we can look at that. Session 2, which starts here, the theme is escape from grabs. Okay, now we're all training solo, but I'm going to give everybody here an exercise. And the next time you get, a partner, I mean, today is the first day of phase 1 in New York City, so things are starting to open slowly. So, knock on wood here, hopefully things will start kind of opening again somewhat soon. And we'll talk about that today before we wrap up as well, kind of what the future for us holds. But the next time you can get a partner, okay, have them stand behind you and have them just put you in like a bear hug situation. So I'll describe this drill. We'll all do it in the air. And then the next time you get a person, give this a try. And I think you'll find the results interesting. So if I had my partner available, they would stand behind me. They would wrap one arm around me and they, maybe hold me in like a gable grip type of situation, okay? So what I want to do, I want to get into my stance the way that we practice. I want to cross my left hand over my right the way that the form starts. Sifu always teaches us to do it this way, and I really like this. I happen to agree. I start by doing it wrong on purpose. And what's wrong? I'm going to start by muscling. So imagine the person's arm is over my arms, right? They're holding me like in a bear hug. And I always start by just trying to muscle it. Now I'm fairly strong I'm 5'7". I mean, I'm fairly strong for my size. I don't know that I'm the strongest guy in the world, but this right here on most people, even people with giant traps, is usually fairly weak. Okay, so you feel it pretty instantaneously, no matter how strong. It can just be somebody wiry that's hanging on to you. It's like, oh, I have no leverage. Then you really sink into your stance. You really sink into that point in your navel, low diaphragm area that you've been visualizing. Try to sort of make yourself somewhat concave, like sink into that point. And then don't think about the person's arms. Just think about doing the form. And if you don't immediately, like, dramatically just lift their arms, which sometimes you will feel a huge difference between when you tried to muscle it and then when you relaxed into that posture and just let the movements as we express them in the opening just kind of take place. Okay, so that's one thing. This class, Ivan, I was saying to Conrad before we started, JKD is probably going to look a little similar to CLOT and FMA last week, where I'm going to kind of show you the written curriculum and we're going to kind of go through it. I haven't really done that for JKD. Wing Chun this week, if I go over Yellow Sash again, we're really bordering on like Groundhog Day, where it's like I'm teaching the same class over and over and over and over again. I want to avoid that. So this class, I'm jumping around a little bit for sure, but this is the first kind of bonus, the exercise that I'd like you to try, right? So you get your partner comes, they're standing behind you, they put you in like a bear hug type of situation. Both versions, get in the posture the way we practice it, and then both versions, cross your left hand over your right. First version, just try to muscle it. Just try it, right? Like these, use these and just fight it. And only go for a couple of seconds because it's terrible. You're going to feel, it's not the way, like all this training, it just feels wrong. All this training and all this refinement, and no matter what your martial arts background is, you feel it immediately. It's like the opposite of everything that everybody in any art ever describes when they talk about like technique over muscle, right? So you do that for a few moments, then you relax and really sink. You might even want to reset your posture and really sink into your low diaphragm and relax, and then just go. All right. And try that like the next time you have an opportunity. That's so, along with kind of running us through the system very often, you know, again, so I don't have my, like, that's a group shot from this joint seminar. So, you know, here's Sifu Fong, Guru, and Asanto. This is obviously from a decade ago already, but this is when things are open, usually in late January. Sifu will go out to the Asanto Academy, and that's an annual seminar. They do 3 hours of Guru in Asanto in the morning, 1 hour lunch break, and then 3 hours of Sifu Fong teaching Wing Chun. Now, because I've attended all of them, his public seminars versus like instructors type seminars versus classes at his academy, Wing Chun classes, he always does a mix, meaning he'll teach techniques very similar to what I've gone over with you so far in some of these classes, and then he'll show some of these type of energy applications. And so drills like this, and very often he'll have the biggest, buffest person there be the person that comes in and grabs onto it, right? And it doesn't matter. It's like the harder they try to hang on to him, you know, he'll kind of impose his will on people via Wing Chun principles, okay? And I've always advised people to react to that in the same way that I kind of talk about my experiences with Sifu and my background. You know, I got one aerospace engineer, atheist, skeptical inquirer type parent, and then my other parent is like a yuppie. Now she's a yuppie, but she used to be a hippie, kind of spiritual, new agey. She's open to any. I guess I'm giving away whom is who. My dad is very, very much skeptical inquirer. My mom is very like new agey, open to all kinds of stuff. So I have both in my background. Both perspectives make sense to me. That you would be a skeptical inquirer type, and that you would be new agey, kind of open to new stuff, or even being somewhere in the middle. All I will say is in the 15 years that I've been training with him, Sifu Fong has done so many things, demos on me, where I have no explanation. Like, I have no explanation for what he was able to do. Okay, I don't mean he made me like levitate, nothing like that, but the way that he's able to affect my energy. And what I would say, both make sense to me, and there's no victim. So if I wanted to view it as a demonstration of Qi that's possible through decades of Wing Chun and refined practice, cool. If I wanted to view it as, you know, I'm an empiricist and there's a physics-related explanation and nothing more, it's still really gosh darn impressive. And he had to get to that point to be able to do that. So you see what I'm, there's no victim. There's no special like, okay, here's where you give me an extra $10,000 and I will infuse you with Qi over the weekend and you'll be able to do it too, as long as your Qi is strong enough by the end of the weekend. Well, let me save you the suspense, right? That's charlatanism. They're going to tell you that you didn't believe strongly enough by that's like no touch knockout kinds of stuff. No disrespect to anybody. Sifu's never presented it that way. It's just kind of like, hey, check this out, boom, and then he affects the energy of like the three biggest people in the room, and then he's like, that what I just did is this, and that's kind of like and he leaves it at that, and it's not. There's no charlatanism, and if you'd like to think that it's chi, cool. If you don't, and you want to look at it as like leverage or physics in action, cool. It's still really gosh darn impressive. So there you go. Okay, for many years I was in Southern California, and Sifu is in Johns Creek, Georgia, and I would get out there as much as I could starting in 2008. I mean, now we're on the same coast. It still involves a multi-hour plane ride. My reason for saying that there had to be something really special to get me to go all the way out to Georgia, since I was training at the Inosanto Academy and in the Inosanto lineage. And I'm not trying to insult anybody or any pathway, because I think everybody has something to offer. I've just always been very impressed with Sifu Fong and his expression of Wing Chun. Okay, so he's my Wing Chun instructor. All right, so I pulled this out. I'm going to use this once very carefully and try not to damage anything. The good news is my wife and kids are in other rooms, so if I do hit anything, I'll probably get away with it, okay? But I'm gonna use the full staff one time for the sake of everybody. And again, I need a new webcam where I can adjust, how wide the shot is, but at least this way, everybody got to kind of see it once, all right? So if you don't have the room or you don't have a staff, even like a collie stick is fine. And we'll talk about that. And it'll totally be fine. So here's what you want to do. Your right hand, you want to hold the stick at full extension and literally have it run into your armpit. Then your left hand goes and gets the end. That's the way we were taught to measure it, okay? Now, just a little, I know we're in Wing Chun time, but I for the sake of lifelong investigation, I find this fascinating. That's what the Chinese believe. The Filipinos would depending on what system, would probably say, as long as you have control over the weapon and you feel like you're not going to lose it, you have a good grip, and you feel like you're going to be able to hit hard, it's really going to be okay. All right, so I'm going to go back here to how we measure this. Now this has changed the last time that I had to actually do this and have it reviewed or evaluated. We used to start, well, I'll show you both ways. Feet are together. That's the way that we usually did it most of the time. Left foot circles open, right foot circles open, okay? And I'm going to show you the way that I have more time doing it over the last 15 years as opposed to the most recent version. This arcs up, okay? I don't have a ton of room. Stay where you're at, gentlemen, okay? I don't have a ton of room. Like a dumbbell, or I'm sorry, a barbell. See how that arced up? So it's the same thing, okay? So I open my feet, this arcs up, and then I push it straight down. So it comes up to me at an arc, and then I push it straight down, okay? There are only so many movements in this form, and I'm going to kind of just walk everybody, especially those with less background than the two of you gentlemen who might be watching later. I'm going to walk everybody through this with the English way that I usually coach this. So we do that, we open our feet. So let's just start over, okay? Put our feet together, open, circle the left open, circle the right open, arc it up, push it down, arc it up again, turn your head, thrust. Now when you thrust, your left hand goes all the way to your armpit where you went and got the stick. We pull back. I know my right foot is not really in the frame, but Ivan's is, and we're in a cat stance type of a situation. And we snap this stick down. We're going to repeat that 3 times. Thrust, cat stance, snap. So let's call that number 2. Third one, thrust, cat stance, snap, right? Don't move. I'm going to come towards you, even though normally I wouldn't do that. I don't physically have the room to do the next motion, or I'm going to break my stuff, okay? So here, I cut 45 degrees to my right, and I repeat that sequence of 3 thrusts to 3 snaps. Okay? So let's take everything that we have again one more time, because this is an incredibly short form. It's at least the way it's been taught to me over the last 15 years, okay? Feet together. If we need to remeasure, we can always do that. We want to make sure we have the ideal, size here. Left opens up, right opens up, arc it, push it, arc it. Turn your head, thrust 1, snap 1, 2, snap 2, 3, snap 3. I turn 45 degrees to my right, and normally you go right into your thrust. I'm moving back because I don't have the room, okay? Now, I'm going to turn 180 degrees and hit low. So see, I was on this line, and now I come 180 degrees and I hit low. I hit over the top on that same line, and then I drop in 45 degrees to the right of what started as my front. So this is my front, and I have 1, snap, 2, snap, 3 reps here. Staff goes out in front of me, and I step in right foot, left foot. I know you can't really see my staff anymore, I'm sorry. Behind me to the right, back out straight, and down. That's it. And I end up facing the same direction in which I started. Okay, so that was one time with the staff. I'm going to grab, this is a Krabi Krabong stick. Okay, so now you're supposed to do it like what I just had, and what Ivan is holding now is a 6-foot staff. But sometimes you don't have access, and sometimes you don't have the room. So I'm going to measure, and the nice part here is that you will get to see everything, and I think I'll be able to stay in the frame. Even if I have to go slow, I won't have to adjust, and you can see exactly what this is going to look like with limited space, right? Left foot opens, right foot opens, arc it, push it back down, arc it, turn to the right, thrust 1, snap 1, thrust 2, snap 2, thrust 3, snap 3. 45 degrees to your right, and we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, now, so I'm on this line. If I visualize 180 degrees hitting low, over the top on that same line, and then 45 degrees to the right of true front. 1, 2, 3. I push this out in front of me. I know you can't really see my feet. I'm still in kind of a right cat stance, right? So I just finished this, boom. I step in right foot, left foot. My feet are even. I'm not in a lead. Over my right shoulder, back, and down, okay? And it's a little hard to express with this. Yeah, it's not so much like a thrust, but this doesn't really give you the right idea. I really am, let's try this without breaking anything. Okay, like here, boom, and there, right? And I'm even a little cut off because I don't just have the room to fully express this. Like my old garage academy, we would always go outside and do it in front of the garage so that everybody had enough room with the staffs. Okay, so the reason that I really like that form is that starts to show you the coordination of how everything is informed by body mechanics, right? So that whole form is all the power is generated, left foot, right foot, arc, push, arc, turn, thrust. Like the mentality is like, this is a spear, I am goring that person. And then I come back, cat stance. This snap is supposed to be ridiculous because it's supposed to be hitting somebody. If, like, I don't know if it's picking up or not, this is a rattan staff. If it's not hardwood, when you snap that, it should give a little bit. It should bend a little bit, right? And then every motion is informed with body mechanics. Same thing here, right? I'm not going to do it because I'm going to break my poster and my my bookcase, but like you commit to that thrust. Boom, same thing here, right? So I have another set of 3. Then when I go 180, I'm taking my whole body into that shot. And then I go over the top. Like it's supposed to, every shot is informed by power generated through body mechanics. Then boom, I have another set here. Right, I'm going very slowly because I have a desk off camera. I have a whole bunch of technology right off camera that I don't want to damage. This comes out in front of me. I step into it. Boom, I go over my shoulder like somebody's sneaking up on me. Right? And then back out straight down. So, I shouldn't say crazy, purposeful power generated with really extraordinary body mechanics to get this staff. Because again, this 6-foot staff form, I mean, not that it's a huge achievement because I'm almost shorter than almost everybody that I know. The staff is obviously taller than I am. The tip is out of the frame. This is 6 feet tall. I am not, as much as I wish I was, I am not 6 feet tall. Okay, so, and you know, Sifu at his academy in Georgia has these super long, super heavy, like dragon pole type, and you have to do the form with that and continue to control the weapon. And and they're so heavy and put such a strain on your forearm. And how do you do that? Well, you do that via body mechanics. Okay, so I thought this would be a fun bonus. I don't quite have the room to really show it with full, that's why I grabbed my Krabi stick, you know, left foot, right foot, arc it, push it, arc it, turn your head. 1, 2, 3, 45 degrees. 1, 2, 3, 180 over the top, 45 to the right. 1, 2, 3, push it out, step in behind it, over your shoulder, back and down. And again, we would do this sometimes like in kids class when we just didn't have the room, or the kids frankly were too little to work with 6 foot staffs, right? As we'd grab, okay, everybody grab an Eskrima stick and measure. And is it as good? No, it's not as good, but that's kind of the deal. Okay, so I thought that would be a fun bonus because we've been so focused on yellow sash that, again, I try to avoid the Groundhog Day phenomenon where you feel like every class you take with me is the same class because we're always doing the same thing. I mean, I'm not allergic to working on my basics, and I know how important that is, but that's more of a sensibility thing. Okay, I'm over time. I apologize. Let's check this out, everybody. Okay, so Chinese, Filipino, Thai, Indonesian, French and Dog Brothers, Japanese. For the sake, again, of anybody watching, if you'd like to formalize your Wing Chun training with me at stoopsomalc.com. And even though this is Wing Chun, we have a virtual Filipino martial arts trainer weekend coming up the last weekend, the 27th and the 28th of June. And if you missed that, there will still be an opportunity to kind of participate after the fact. Okay, so I'm going to end this recording. Just give me